Hi, I'm Vivian Deniz with Investing Insights. Speaking with me today is Jim Paterson, CEO of Kivalliq Energy. Jim, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks, Vivian. Thank you.
Jim, I want to talk a little bit about the uranium market because it seems that a lot of analysts are pretty broadly optimistic that we're going to see a rebound in 2014. As an industry player, can you tell me what you see happening in the market in 2014?
Yeah, I don't know what will happen with the spot price. I have no idea. It seems like it's come off quite a bit since its highs in late 2011. But what I do know is the sentiment is truly changing. One of the bellwethers of our sector is Chemical Corporation. And if you go back to October of 2013, they're up over 33% since then in terms of their share price. So that's a big sign. I also know from being in Toronto earlier this week that the sentiment on Bay Street is very positive. And some of the big banks and brokerage houses are now starting to get quite active in terms of research and coverage on uranium and the big names, and that'll be very helpful. So the trading volumes are increasing, the share prices of companies like ours are increasing, and more interest to a global investor audience, the big names are moving, which is a really good sign for us.
So with the big names like Cameco, are there anybody else we could add?
Yeah, well, one big thing that happened overnight was that Uranium Participation is launching a $50 million bought deal financing. A number of Canadian brokerage houses are launching that bought deal. So that's going to be great. That's $50 million new dollars of capital that will go into or whatever number. I think it's about 85% of the net offering could go into U308 and UF6 purchases, which will help the spot and help the companies in the space. It's actually a really big deal.
So definitely things are looking like they're going to be improving.
I'm an optimist, but I would agree with you, yes.
I think we all want to be optimists in this market. So this week, Kivalliq announced the acquisition of the Genesis property in northeastern Saskatchewan. For a company that's been focused primarily in Nunavut, what has caught your attention with this area?
Well, the Saskatchewan is definitely one of the most fantastic jurisdictions in the world for uranium. And we looked around and we saw an opportunity to come in and very cost effectively greatly increase our exposure to uranium. Mm-hmm. And so we were able to stake, when it's all said and done, close to 500,000 acres just northeast of the Athabasca Basin and along a trend that hosts 95% of the Canadian uranium deposits, all of the Canadian uranium mines, and all of the Canadian uranium mills. So it is an amazing address, and we were able to pick up a huge land position of very prospective terrain.
So in terms of key features, apart from being in an area that has all of the Canadian uranium mines, what is important for investors to know about Genesis?
It's very close to operating mines and mills, which is very important. So location, logistics is good. In terms of why we picked it up, obviously we're a very technical group, and we saw the ingredients that were attractive to exploration companies prior to Fission and Alpha's discovery of PLS. A lot of the same ingredients are also present in the Genesis property. So we have the right structure, the right geochemical anomalies. There are geophysical targets as well, the right cross-cutting structure. So all the geological elements that we'd like. We also like that we have a big, broad land position so that we aren't constrained by a property line, and we'll be able to go in and advance the project at our own pace and chase the right targets.
Okay. So what are your plans then for Genesis?
We haven't announced any concrete plans yet because we just picked the properties up. Mm-hmm. But what we will be doing is compiling all the historical data that's done by previous operators and the province of Saskatchewan, available in terms of assessment reports. And we'll be compiling that, we'll be reviewing that, and then we'll be putting forth a program that the goal would be to have drill targets ready to go by January 2015, if not sooner.
Okay, so it's not very far off then.
Well, a year's not that long in the exploration business, but we think we can get the project ready, a number of drill targets ready for testing by that point.
Okay. So now just to look a little bit at your flagship property up in Nunavut, Angilak, mm-hmm. Can you just update on what's going on there? Yeah,
one of the things that we've been really working on is accumulating, reviewing, and understanding what it will be necessary to develop or push that project forward to the next level. Mm-hmm. So we'll be waiting in the next month or so. I believe we'll be receiving information related to our metallurgical testing and the radiometric sort which is very critical in terms of proposed mining plan. So that should all be coming in with the next month or so.
Okay. Now, it seems that with the Genesis property, there's a certain element of diversification that you've added to the portfolio for Kivalliq. Can you explain a little bit about why diversification is important?
I think it's really important if you're a global investor and you are investing in a company, you don't necessarily want the political whims of the local jurisdiction to dictate the value of the project. So we, as a board of directors, recognize that to spread some risks and geographical diversification is helpful. And in the case of Genesis, it is still in Canada. It is in arguably the best uranium jurisdiction in the world in the form of Saskatchewan. And it is a geological environment that we really understand. So though we have some geographical diversification, we aren't starting from ground zero. I think we've got a real competitive edge. In terms of Saskatchewan, one of our directors is Dale Walster, who was very involved with the early stages of Rough Rider, which was the asset that Hathor held that was sold to Rio Tinto for a significant amount of money. And Dale has a lot of experience there. We have on our board the former chairman of Hathor as well, Jim Malone. So we not only have a lot of Saskatchewan experience, but Canadian experience. So diversification is great in terms of spreading risk, giving us more exposure to uranium, which we think is a good place to be right now. We think there's lots of upside in the uranium market, and we want to, as cost effectively, get more exposure to it. That was the purpose of the Genesis property acquisition, but in no means are we straying from the focus of Angilak. That is our flagship property.
Okay, well, it's good to know. Any last things that investors should know about in terms of what's going on?
I'm very excited about the change in sentiment. I think that's really important to know. And if you're an investor and you're looking at a space that you think will move, you look at the big names, you look at the types of firms and investors that are getting into this space. And I think that is a seed change over the last few weeks where you've got big money flowing back into the sector, and that will trickle down to exploration companies like Kivalliq as well.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thanks, Vivian.
I'm Vivian Deniz with Investing Insights, and that was Jim Paterson, CEO of Kivalliq Energy. Kivalliq trades on the Toronto Venture Exchange under the symbol KIV. Thank you for joining me.